The moment you've been waiting for. Here's
Run and tell it to my heart and brain cells and make sure that you explain well. How we gonna break the marks from jails and put people back on track so they can excel? On the street, them need freedom, so we feed them with wisdom, cause wise cuts down weeds and exposes the darkness so that evil is revealed. And when evil get revealed, that's when people get healed.
This is the Run and Tell podcast.
Each one united, come on, don't fight it. You heard it here first, now run and tell of the righteous riot.
Each one united, come on, don't fight it. You heard it here first, now run and tell of the righteous riot.
This is the Run and Tell podcast.
Each one united, come on. Each one united, come on, come on. Each one united, come on, don't fight it. You heard it here first, now run and tell of the righteous riot.
What's up, everybody? It's been a while since we were live for Run and Tell, and I just want to welcome you guys to this live episode. And we had to take a little break because, well, we had our third. My wife and I had our third son. Well, she had our third son, and I was just there cheering her on. But but we had our third son, Silas Edward Ornelas, and we're just so proud of him, and we're having a great time and with the sleepless nights. So you guys already know, those of you who have kids already know what it is, that sometimes you gotta focus on that. Make sure you keep the baby alive, all that stuff, right? Speaking of new arrivals, of new babies, I have a very special guest with me tonight who's going to be helping me talk about just kind of catching up on some of the last episodes we've previously had, and just kind of want to unpack some of the heavy things that I came away with, and talk about those things, as well as get to know my guest, Daniel Marfil. Say what's up, Daniel.
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
So Daniel and I go way back. We've known each other for a very long time. Matter of fact, myself and Ricky Tostado, who's my co-host of the show, who is still the co-host of the show, but the thing that Daniel and Ricky have in common are they are both expecting babies soon as well. How you feel about that, Danny?
Man, I am so blessed to be able to be a father for. I mean, I have stepkids, but to actually have a baby that's yours, that's fully blood, I'm excited. Words can't even express how happy I am.
Dude, I'm so happy for you, man. I've expressed it to you. Like, I think when you called me and you told me, you probably couldn't understand what I was saying because I was just so excited for you, man. But we'll get on that a little bit more later. But I just want to kind of catch people up who are probably tuning in for the first time. This show, Run and Tell, we started it maybe about 8 months ago. We first started talking about it, me and Rick Tostado, who, congratulations to you too, my brother. You're expecting as well. I think you guys are like neck and neck. He's expecting a baby girl and you're expecting a baby boy. Nope. And we really wanted to do this show so that you would be encouraged. A lot of times I meet people of the faith, and and I just ask them questions, maybe because I don't know what to talk about, so I figure the best thing to do is to ask them about them. And I end up discovering some really cool stories that are just to me inspiring, they're uplifting, and they're powerful, just testimonies of what God does in people's lives. And a lot of times you will never know because you don't ask. So I wanted to create a platform for people to share those types of things, and you know, that maybe hopefully people would learn um, something special for them that God wants to speak to them, to you. So so there's a couple of them that I want to just kind of remind you guys of before we get into Danny's story. And I think one of the ones that stood out to me big time was Brendan McPeak's story. Did you happen to see Brendan McPeak's episode, Daniel?
I believe so.
Okay.
Sounds familiar.
Kind of about the about church hurt.
Yeah.
This video, actually, God has been using it greatly, and I'm just honored. Me and Rick have discussed, bro, about how you know, we do these things and we don't even know if people watch them. You know, right now we have 4 viewers, and we're very grateful for you guys. Which reminds me, real quick, please, if you're watching this right now, go ahead and hit the share and the subscribe button, and make sure you're a part of this thing we're doing here, this mission to encourage people. So please, if you can, hit that share button. And if you're in the live stream chat room, if you're able to comment, whether on YouTube or Facebook, please talk to us, ask questions, give tips to Danny, who is going to be a new father real soon. He's been a stepfather, been doing a great job of that. But any tips for him on how to handle a baby and keep that baby alive, you know? But once again, please, I cannot stress it enough, you would help us out greatly just by simply sharing this to your timeline. So, Danny, one of the episodes that I think have been greatly used lately that we've done recently is we interviewed Brendan McPeak, he used to be signed to Cross Movement Records.
Okay.
And he used to be a rapper, but then he turned kind of into he did like soul music, and does worship.
Okay.
And so I hadn't heard from him in a while, and so I invited him on here just to kind of see what he's been up to, and some of the things he shared with us, I couldn't believe happened. He was a pastor at a church, and things went wrong, and he ultimately experienced what a lot of people experience as church hurt. Are you familiar with the phrase church hurt?
Yeah, I actually think that's I don't want to say a trend, but that's happened to a lot of people.
Yeah. Have you ever experienced church hurt yourself?
No, I wouldn't say church hurt. But I know people that have been hurt by the church, and they're very bitter towards the idea of being invited to church, or it's very hard just to bring up the God in general because they're hurt.
Yeah, I think I could speak, like when he was talking about some of the things, I was like, man, I know exactly what you're speaking about right now. You know, and honestly, I don't really want to bring up too much of that topic, as much as I want to point out how the fact that Brendan was able to be so honest about his situation, and it ministered to so many people, and including people who are very close to me, who I never thought they would ever be watching, and that's a testimony in itself.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, you know, right now we're up and down with the viewers, even right now, okay, and that could be discouraging. That could be like, oh man, why am I even doing this?
Yeah.
Right. And even with somebody like Brendan McPeak, who already has kind of like, you know, fans, he's an artist, people like his music. Well, you know, for weeks I was kind of like, man, I expected probably there'd be a little bit more attention. And then I get a call from somebody, or text from somebody, who's like, hey, I checked out that show, The last person I thought would ever be watching or paying attention, and they said, "Man, that episode got me thinking." Because one of the things that Brendan said that, hey, look, a church, like a church, a specific body, or a building, like they'll hurt your feelings. They'll do you wrong.
Yeah.
They'll betray you. You'll see something corrupt. But God's church, the definite article in front of that, that's God's bride.
Yeah.
And he's jealous for her. He loves her. He'll defend her. He took the cross for her.
Yeah.
And man, it ministered to me while I was listening and talk about it. And then the different people that were starting to come to me maybe a few weeks later were just like, man, I've been thinking about it and I just have to tell you. Man, that was so encouraging because I've been doing this and I'm like, is anybody out there? Is anybody listening?
Yeah.
And then ultimately, people are being blessed by it. So I think if you are watching this now and you haven't watched Brendan McPeak's episode, and maybe you know somebody who has experienced some kind of church hurt, I would encourage you to look up that episode and to copy that link or share it to them, and just so that people understand what has happened in that situation and that they aren't holding grudges against in places that they should not be holding grudges. And that they can find a way to forgiveness. I think that's super important, and a lot of times that simply takes somebody just being honest about their experience. And so that's what we want to do with you tonight, Danny. Is I want to ask you questions, bro, about how you came to know the Lord and how you've experienced His goodness in your life. But before we get into that, what have you been up to, bro?
Not much, honestly. I had surgery. And then COVID hit, so now we're pregnant, and so trying to juggle that and still maintain most. Unhappy, during the pregnancy.
That's code for he's dealing with. He's trying to keep her. He's trying to survive. No, shout out to. We're so happy for you. And if you guys are watching right now, why don't you guys drop a comment to congratulate Danny? Give him some tips as to how to raise a family, anything to expect with raising a little infant, taking care of a baby. All that stuff is helpful, right, bro?
Yep.
Yeah.
I can use all the wisdom.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong with seasoned veterans that have already raised kids. So.
Yeah. Definitely. So what else?
Other than that, just trying to balance, work or not. I mean, I'm not even at work, but just like life at home and still trying to abide with this guidelines of going to church, no church, practicing new methods like Zoom, Bible studies, and I think it's a little harder in the sense of because when you go to church, you're there but sometimes you can lose track of time if you're watching a movie or whatever, or just honestly just tired and don't want to tune into a Bible study. You definitely get more lax. So just trying to keep that discipline of being faithful and going to your phone or laptop to do a Bible study. But other than that, just getting ready for the baby.
Yeah. So how about how are you doing in this political season?
Oh, I'm just I finally registered for the first time. I think this is going to be a critical year. I'm voting for, The Rock. No, I'm just playing. No, I'm not going to say who I'm going to vote for, but because I don't want, conflicts. But I'm definitely going to vote for who I think's going to benefit not just me now, but my kids and the future of our country. Um, but I think this is a very critical point in our American history to vote.
Yeah. Shifting gears a little bit, bro. One thing I always tell people about you, like whenever, I'm gonna bring you somewhere or introduce you to somebody, is that, or even like if I am ever teaching a Bible study or something, and I come across the topic of compassion, and I've told you this, bro, that of all the people I know, man, there's not many people that give other people so many chances and gives them a lot of understanding and compassion. Compassion is the key word. And bro, I just gotta say, like, what is it? What is it that causes you to be such a way, for better or for worse? Because sometimes I'm like, no, bro, you don't understand. That person, they are whack, and I shouldn't be that way. And that's why I'm saying that, if there was something to be admired by, it would be the fact that of all the people I know, bro, you seem to be somebody that is very patient, and very compassionate towards others, and even when I don't see it, and then I eventually do see it because I try to see it the way you see it, and I realize that the way you see it a lot of times is the way Jesus would see a person. So I just want to know, bro, like, what's that about? And we already talked about what questions we may go over tonight, but I didn't want to give you that question ahead of time, because I wanted you to answer it sincerely and honestly, bro. What is it, man, that makes you that way? I don't get it, and I want to know because I need to be more like that, man.
Um, Honestly, I just look at I I mean I look how Jesus' mercy and His grace upon us, and like we're supposed to reflect that. So, like you said, for better or worse, and there's a lot of worse than that.
Yeah.
But I don't. I just have hope that I see good in everybody, even if they're bad. Like I still like maybe this one chance can get them from that point of their life to the next, and it's just something that I know I'm not the best, and I know I screw up. And there's times where I'll be listening to a song or a message, and it's talking about his grace and his mercy and his compassion on me, and I just feel like I have to outpour that because he's pouring that into me, and I try to just distribute and give people a chance because sometimes people won't give, if you screw up they won't give you a second chance. And at least if I can give someone a third, fourth, fifth try, actually on my way up here I was listening to the Bible, and the disciples asked, how many times should I forgive my brother? 7 times? And Jesus says, I say 77 times. So, not that I just try to make it until it gets to a point where I'm like, all right, God, give me the wisdom and knowledge to know when to stop or when to cut that person off. But until I get that from Him, you're gonna get that love and compassion from me.
It's important that you brought up that sometimes it is necessary for you to sever relationships, even if it's just for a time. The scriptures talk about, Paul wrote to the Corinthians that this person who was committing lewd acts in the church and was refusing the correction. He said, hey, you guys gotta deliver them unto Satan for the destruction of the flesh. And a lot of people, kind of take that overboard and will leave that person out there in obscurity. And Paul would have to remind them in 2 Corinthians, he would bring it up again and say, receive that brother back to you lest he be discouraged. And so I think paying attention and having a discerning ear from a place of compassion is absolutely important when dealing with people. I know myself, there's been people who maybe they wronged me, maybe they betrayed me, maybe they cheated me, some scandalous thing, and I thought it was unforgivable. And I said, you know what? I'm cutting them off. I'm deleting them off Facebook. All this silly nonsense stuff, like from the first error, and then I think about all the times that I, have wronged people, or even just let the Lord down, if you could do such a thing, and how patient He's been with me. And I just think, like, what am I doing treating people like that? Every once in a while I realize, it's not right to handle relationships that way. But then there are some people that you just have to be like, no, that person is really, as much as I am trying to lift them up, they are ripping me down.
Yeah.
And you can't get caught up in that, especially as a man who has a family, who you're the leader of your home. Because if somebody brings you down, then you're bringing them down with you.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you have to, like you said, you have to hear God's discern what God is saying for each individual. But until then, you're measuring compassion. And the reason why that's important is because Jesus said, whatever you measure out will be measured back to you. And so, by the way, those of you who think that karma is what goes around comes around, that's not what karma is. Karma is if you are a jerk your whole life on earth, then you'll come back as a slug or something that gets stepped on. That's what karma is. It's a false doctrine of reincarnation. But what goes around comes around is actually a biblical thing that Jesus talked about in Matthew 7 that you can check out. So Daniel, why don't you tell us, bro, about that moment that you became a Christian, that you realized that Jesus is your Lord, and why don't you recount that for us, bro?
Okay. I would say my grandma, my mom's mom, would always hound my mom to make sure we would always go to church. And so at this time when I first went to church was in Escondido, and down the street was a Calvary Chapel. So we went on a Sunday. My mom checked me into the kids' room, whatever ministry, and I hated it. All we did was color and eat those little animal cracker cookie things, and I told my mom, like, I don't want to do that. I want to stay with her. So the following week, after worship, I stayed with her while the kids were dismissed into their groups, and the pastor was just talking about, I don't even remember, just the words in the Bible. I'm just flipping to it and trying to understand it. They were just like, it was amazing. It was a whole experience that I've never experienced before. And then after that, we stopped going for a little bit. And then we started going to the church with my grandparents down in San Marcos. And then that's when I started to worship. I would see people raising their hands. I didn't know what it meant, but I would sing and raise my hands, and it was just, it just felt like there was peace in my life. And then just, growing up without my real dad in my life, he lives in Colorado. We lived out here in California. And my mom raising me and my two brothers by herself, like, it was a struggle with, like, not really getting the attention from your parents. My mom did the best she could. She worked 3 jobs to support us. And just, being a big guy at school, getting picked on and bullied and all that jazz, like, one day I just wanted to take my life at the age of 10. And I grabbed a knife. I went to an area where we played in my house outside, and I was gonna cut my wrists. And but I literally asked God, if you're really real, if you're really about love, like these pastors say you are, then prove it.
So let me stop you there. So you're saying you're 10 years old and you're battling with thoughts of suicide, and it's because of bullying?
Bullying and just not feeling wanted.
Because your mom is doing the best she can as
Yeah.
a single mom.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's park there a little bit, bro. I want to understand your perspective because it seems like for the last couple years there's been an upswing in these like not so much teenager but preteen, elementary school suicides. And of all the things on this earth, there are a few things that are more heartbreaking than that to me. That a little child would feel that um, would feel that the only way to I guess get along is to not be here anymore. It absolutely breaks my heart, and I can't understand it. And actually, as I'm saying that, man, I'm remembering that I might have felt a certain way, but I think I was a little older. But 10 years old, man, that's a very young age to be battling thoughts like that. And so I think you said something very key just a moment ago, and it's the feeling of not being wanted. And do you think that that's a lot of times what's going on these days, or?
Yeah, I think it is. And I think it's society right now nowadays. Um, Always having the newest, greatest things, and you know, both parents are always working from sun up to sundown. You know, the fast food industry is booming because of it. Well, I'm not no health expert because but I mean it's prominent for us. That's the fastest convenient way sometimes.
Sure.
And we lose that table time at dinner and talking with the kids. Hey, how's your day going? And like how the old days were, like the family would be having dinner, and even some people would have Sunday dinners, but they don't even do that anymore. And just their kids' babysitter or how they feel wanted is these gadgets. It's technology, and if you don't get accepted there, you feel you're not wanted anywhere. I'm thankful I didn't have that back then.
Yeah.
We ran and got dirty and
Yeah.
trampoline and rode bikes
Yeah.
and played cops and
Got
robbers.
into fights,
Exactly. Yeah.
At least there was a chance to
Yeah.
to get your mind off of it, whether it was negative or positive things.
Yeah.
But so 10 years old, bro, you're you're feeling the weight of your parents' separation. Your dad is not around, and your mom is doing her best as a single mother of three boys.
Yeah. Myself, my brother Austin, and my brother Cody.
And then so it's not just that she's a single mom who's just trying to make it, but her attention is split between the three of you.
Yeah.
And then you go to school, and you feel unwanted there. And so that's where your mind is at when that happens.
Yeah.
So you challenge God, and you say what again?
I said, if you're really about love, like these pastors or these people that are talking about you, let me feel that. Let me feel love. Not that I wasn't receiving it, but just like, when you feel loved, you just feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. And I just wasn't feeling that. also was, being dyslexic and struggling in school, and just, it was just hard all around. So I told him, I was like, let me feel that. And I closed my eyes and I said, I'm going to count to three. Put the blade to my wrist. I was like, one, two, and then it was just like something spoke to me. Not like an audible voice, but it wasn't me. And it says, if you take your life and your brother's dad's not in their life, both my brothers have the same dad, their dad's not in their life, who's gonna be there for them as a figure? And that's what I needed. And I dropped the knife, and I've always worshipped and been in church ever since. I never really told anyone that part of my testimony until later on, and it makes my brothers uncomfortable at times. That they feel like as if they were the ones that saved me, but I know God was. But God used them. Because when I closed my eyes, I saw both my brothers' faces in each eye. I saw Austin and Cody in each of my eye. And it was like clear as day, like who's going to be there for them?
Yeah.
And
So it's like God gave you like a mission and a purpose. And, one thing I also know about you is that you love your family, man. Not just your brothers, but your whole family. And all the people you care about, you go hard for them, man. And, I hear what you're saying, that, and I think it's awesome that the Lord was like reminding you. It's so great. The thing that to me is miraculous about that is the fact that you're 10 years old. And as a father of sons, it's terrifying to me that at such a young age they're thinking deep things like that. And then I remember the things that I was thinking at that age, and I'm just kind of like, Lord, have mercy. Lord, have mercy. And that's what I pray over my kids every night. Is first of all, yeah, Lord, have mercy, because I'm a knucklehead, and
aren't we all?
but one of the other things I pray over my kids every night is, Lord, let them somehow feel loved by me, by you, by their mother, my wife, by their family. Let them feel loved. Let them feel wanted. Let them know that somehow, Lord, let their little minds just understand that they have people that love them. And because that feeling you're talking about at such a young age, I know it. I know that feeling. I didn't understand it back then, but when my parents were divorced, it's the same thing. I was a kid. I was 8 years old, and my entire world that I thought I never even contemplated at 8 years old that it would be any different than my mom and my dad and my two sisters and I. And then from 1 week to the next, because it was a shock to us. It was like, we're getting a divorce. And it was like, what does that mean? Well, it means that we're not going to be in the same house ever again. And my reaction was to that? I ran. 8 years old, I ran away. Because it was like, that's been my life, and if it's changing, I can't take it. I'm gone. And they found me. I was actually in the garage hiding under the van. But then, as time would go on, in the first 2 years, it was very ugly. It was very bad. And I remember my dad was so hurt and distraught over it that it changed him. And of course, such a life-altering thing would change people, right? But as a kid, you don't understand that. And so I saw my dad, and even to this day, if you look at pictures around that time, like somebody was taking pictures at Christmas, Thanksgiving, whatever, and my dad would be in the background with a tissue in his hand. You can look at those pictures and know exactly what was going on. And we lived with my uncle in Ontario, and there was already, I think, like 2 other families living there, and so it was a big house with a lot of people, and I was the second youngest. The other was a baby, and with all those people in that house, I felt unwanted. I felt like I was in the way. I felt like I was in a burden. On top of that, I had not heard from my mom, seen or heard from my mom for a long time, and my sisters. That whole feeling of stability and comfort was ripped away from me, and not only was it ripped away from me, I felt like I was in the way.
Yeah.
I felt like I was a burden. Not like my dad didn't intentionally make me feel like that, but he was consumed with what was happening in his life,
Yeah.
and then trying to get us out of there. And but then in the process, you got people who don't necessarily understand that, and they're making life hard for you,
Yeah.
making you feel bad about yourself, and you're a kid and you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I remember all I had in those days was a wicker basket full of clothes in the corner of my cousin's closet. And I would go in there and I would close the door and I would just cry. And I would say, why am I even here? At 8 years old, that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Why am I even here then?
Yeah.
And then I would just cry out for my mom. Where are you? Where are you? And I'm not trying to like win an Oscar here or anything,
No,
but
yeah.
you know, just talking about what kids actually feel, man.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm not like this hippie, you know, flower dad. You know, with my boys, I'm trying to raise them with discipline and
Yeah.
and you know, I'm not too strict, but my goal is to try if as hard as I can, and I'm not going to be perfect at it, but if all I ever do in their life is to make sure that they know that they're loved, then you know I think that's a major part of the battle, man.
Yeah.
For sure, bro. So I'm sorry, man. Let's get back to your story. So did you ever feel or encounter the love of God?
Well, yeah, I did. And one thing that I always struggled with was not having my dad in my life. I mean, I would go out and visit him once in a while here and there, um, but I had the impression that I did something to him, or for him not to want to be in my life. And um, I would be at church during youth battling that. And I would just be up there asking for prayer, and a leader would come up to me and say, God wants you to know that He loves you, and that you don't need an earthly father to love you, because He loves you, and that's all the love you need. And the weird thing is I never told anyone what I was struggling with when I went up for prayer. So that's just confirmation to me that God was speaking to me, and it just comforted me hearing those words. And it was just like, like when you put gas in your car, you go from empty to full. That's how it was for me, and that's how every time I get low, He says or does something to make me feel loved. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I still struggle with that to this day. Maybe this is gonna be a lifetime struggle for me. It's not that I want to have 1,000 friends and have all these people coming and talking to me, because ultimately, like, I have God, and I have my family, I have my wife, I have my wonderful 2 step kids, I have you and your family. Like, I have what I need, but it's just something inside me that I fear of not being wanted somewhere. And so, but yeah, I have definitely
Yeah.
felt the love of God.
Yeah, I think that's something that happens when you're just a kid, and that those insecurities are kind of burned in you.
Yeah.
And man, I remember um, when Judy and I were gonna get married, I was dealing with some major insecurities, man, and a lot of the things that I just shared right now, I hadn't shared those. I was what a Christian maybe 8 years at that time. I was in ministry, and I was l- living the ministry life as a single person, and so I didn't really think about those things, right? Because they don't really get called out. You're so busy grinding. I don't know. I really don't know, but then all of a sudden we go into premarital counseling, and then I realized, man, I'm screwed up. I got all kinds of. It was so funny. It was like these questions that we were talking about preparing for the premarital counseling. I was getting flashbacks that I hadn't thought about in years, and I guess it's because like you forgive people and you forget and you say move on. I have a great relationship with my mom now. I have a great relationship with my dad now, and and I'm so thankful for what the Lord has done there because it was Him that did it. But there are things that your mind and your heart are conditioned with that are not going to be perfected until we see Him face to face on the other side of eternity.
Yeah.
And so I was realizing that there are these deep, deep, deep wounds that I had not looked at in order to understand why I am the way I am right now. Why do I think that everybody hates me? Why do I think that if somebody gives a criticism, it's because they have ulterior motives towards me?
Yeah.
And whether they do or they don't doesn't matter because it really isn't going to affect me. But it really is affecting me
Yeah.
because it's infecting me in here and in here.
Yeah.
And so it was important for me to look at those problems face to face and be able to give those to the Lord as well, especially when I didn't know that they were there weighing me down the whole time. You know, before we get back to your story, I just want to share this because I'd like for it to be on record that there was a time when I was in ministry. I was a Bible teacher for a young adults group for like 8 years. I taught that faithfully every Friday, and I saw a lot of people come and go. A lot of people that I got close to that came and went, and I remember that there was a specific season, and it didn't end with this season, but this was a huge season where I felt like the whole group that was there, we're talking like 20 people, and I felt like they were always constantly looking at me in a judgmental way. Like, who is this guy think he is? I always thought that there was like and anytime I saw people huddled and talking, I always felt like they were talking about me. Now that sounds like a egocentric thing to say, but in reality I felt like they all hated me. And I remember I worked very hard one year to put together this young adults retreat. I was trying to bring everybody back together, get us to take some time away, and wanted to talk about understanding our identity in Christ. This was something very heavy on my heart at that time, and so there's about 35 of us packed into this house in Fern Rock in Twin Peaks, California, and they have like 35 beds there. And I remember I arranged for Pastor James Cadiz, Tom Bally, David Zamora, and I think somebody else. I forget who else, but then also myself. And I remember the hour before I got up to go and give my study, I was crippled with fear. I was on my bed. I had done the studying. I was ready to go. I was prayed up. It was a message that I really felt that the Lord wanted me to give. but I was crippled with fear of them rejecting me. I was on my bed and tears were rolling down my face and I couldn't get up. I could not get out of that bed. As much as I tried to convince myself, saying, Lord, this is for you. It doesn't matter. I just kept, but what if, but what if, but what if? No, that person, they said something that kind of sounded, all these things, all these thoughts of insecurities or insecure thoughts just kind of going through my head, man. And, if it wasn't for James Cadiz, Pastor James Cadiz, who, saw something was wrong and walked in my room and saw me on the bed there, he was like, what's going on? Aren't you next? And I just explained to him everything that was going on in my head, and he just sat there with me and prayed. And he didn't give me a lecture, he just prayed. And all of a sudden I was just filled with strength and courage. And I went out there and I gave the Bible study, and nothing was like what I thought it was like in my head. And it was a year after that I realized the reason why I was feeling that way was because of how my mind was conditioned as a kid. Rejection. And it's so important that we realize those things and we lay them at the feet of Jesus, man. Especially in our relationships, because those can affect our marriages. Those insecure thoughts can affect our marriage. And it's so important that we cast those cares at his feet because he cares for us.
Yeah, it's crazy that you say that. Praise God that happened, that you were able to, accomplish what you were, and that he comforted you in that at that time. But right now, I know that my stepkids battle the feeling of wanting, um, because not so much with us, because with me and my wife, when we do have them, we're very, let's do stuff as a family, the kids and this and that. Um, but as a stepdad, it's harder. You have to gain not just their trust, and then you have to gain not just their trust, you have to build a relationship with them, love, like all that stuff. And I told my wife when we were dating, like, if this, we end up getting married, like, my goal is to be there for the kids, because I was blessed with a great stepdad. And
Shout out to Rich.
yeah, but he was a good example. Not perfect, but he was a good example on how to take kids that are not yours and to love them like they are yours. And with that, that's what I'm doing. And honestly, my kids, when we pick them up, all they want to do is just talk to me. This is what's happening. I watch this show and it's good, and if I feel like I'm making them feel loved, I'm making them feel wanted, and as I pray for them as well, I ask God to relax their mind, to give them peace, and to know who He is, for them to know who He is. Just like how I knew who He was at their age, and I don't want them to go through that. But going through a divorce, I really haven't talked to them about how their feelings are. But when they're with me, and if I can love them and spend time with them and make them feel like they're loved and wanted, I think I'm winning.
There's a saying there that it takes a certain type of person to be able to take care of what's not theirs, man. And that's very admirable, bro. That you can, that even though they're not of your blood or whatever, that it's like adoption.
Yeah.
And that's what's so beautiful about it, man, is that they can look at you and trust you and feel safety and know that you love them, and really that's responsibility of yours as, the being married to their mother.
Yeah.
And so, man, that's awesome, bro. That's awesome, man. So wasn't there a time that you said that you reconciled with your dad?
Yeah. Actually, right now, I have a great relationship with my dad. Um, I don't know why. When it comes to my dad, I get real emotional um, because I always had a negative outlook on him. Like, he didn't want me, he didn't care for me. And when I moved to Colorado in 2012, I was like, I can finally establish a relationship with him. And at first, it was hard. Like, I would hang out with them, and we really had nothing to talk about.
Mm.
There was no and I mean, we had sports. I could talk sports with him, but once sports talk was over, then it's just kind of like,
Mm.
I'm gonna go see what my brother's doing, or I'm gonna go help your stepmom with something. It was kind of awkward. And then um, I just kept pushing for this relationship, and then uh, I got to the point where I was like, I'm gonna keep fighting for this relationship. Um, and now we talk about anything and everything. Um, I love my dad. I actually sat down and I asked him questions. Um, in the middle of a Red Robin in Colorado, and we were both crying. Um, and I'm thankful for my dad. He's a great dad. Um, he's raised my brothers and sisters phenomenal.
Mm.
Um, he's a great man in his little town that he lives in. People look up to him. Even some of my cousins look up to him as a role model and as a male figure. He's a good man, and I'm so thankful that the Lord has granted me to reconcile my relationship with my dad. We, well, I even told him when he was gonna be a grandpa. Um, he was super excited, and I was kind of worried about what he was gonna say.
Mm.
But we were texting back and forth probably a couple weeks ago about names and what he wanted to name the baby, and it's just good to have that relationship. Not that my stepdad's not good enough, because I value that relationship as well, but it's something to have that, like with a biological father, that that kids need. We're half our mom and half our dad, and if we don't have that other half, we're half empty. You know, in a sense, and God has always filled that void. But if God allows you to reconcile with your parents or with anybody, it's amazing.
Yeah,
It's
I would
amazing.
I would say seek out
Yeah.
reconciliation. Man, listening to you talk about your dad, man, I had the same thing with my mom, and it was my mom and I were just, I think we were so much alike, but because we have different worldviews now, it clashes,
Yeah.
and it clashed a lot. So when I became a Christian, I knew, all right, there has to be some forgiveness. Jesus talks about forgiveness. Let's put feet to this faith, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, the person that I was holding grudge against was my mom, because it was like, where were you at?
Hmm.
Those times where I was in my cousin's closet on my little wicker basket full of clothes, crying out, "Mom, where are you? Where were you?" You
Hmm.
know, the time when it was Christmas day, Christmas Eve actually, and you said you were gonna pick me up, and then you never showed up. What's interesting about all that stuff that you experience as kids is that you don't know what's really going on.
Yeah.
you just see everything at face value. And you don't realize what's going on in the head of dad, why he's so upset.
Yeah.
It's because his whole life just changed. Why isn't mom there? Because his whole life changed and he's upset about it. He's making it difficult for her because you're in the middle of what's happening.
Yeah.
And so you pick a side and you start to demonize them for this, you demonize them for that, and then you grow up and you have those moments when you're sitting at Red Robin and you're saying, what the heck happened there? Where were you?
Yeah.
I would never do that to my kid. Stuff like that, right? You start
Exactly.
saying that, and then they start being honest with you and saying, you know, you have family that was threatening to take you to Mexico if I even step foot by their house. You know, I don't know what is true in all that, obviously.
Yeah.
But this is my point, okay? Whether all that stuff is true is besides the point. What is true is that when you get older, you realize that things are complex. They're not just, you weren't there.
Yeah.
And then you realize, man, we're all just trying to do our best.
Yeah.
And some of us get caught up, you know, and we make the mistakes and we hurt our children when they're young, you know. And I had to realize that about both my dad, who I thought was like my superhero growing up. You know, I used to always brag about my dad to my mom to hurt her because he was the one who took me and she wasn't there. And so I'm like caught up in their, you know, fight, right?
Yeah.
And realizing it now as an adult, it was like, oh man, I was messed up. My little mind could not understand what was really happening, that people, that grown-ups have complex issues and nobody's perfect and nobody's a superhero and everybody is fallible. And so when I got older and I realized I had to establish a relationship with my mom, and it wasn't for the lack of her trying in those days, but you know, I was still dealing with bitterness. And for years, we constantly butted heads because we just wanted to argue.
Yeah.
And and so then about 4 years ago, this is just not that long ago. About 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, my mom was finishing up her degree at USC. She was living in Texas at the time, but she had to finish up her degree in USC. And I was trying to move out of the IE, and I said, I got an idea. Let's live together. So I lived with my mom for a year. And it was kind of hard. It was a rough year because two different worldviews under one roof and we were clashing. But one thing I can say is that I do not regret that year because I got close to my mom and I understood my mom for the first time in my life. And I realized what makes her tick. And I learned so much about what happened in the past, and it caused me to have a deep love and respect for my mom that I need.
Yeah.
That I need because my wife is a woman. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And she's a mother to my children. Mm-hmm. And so I learned so much, man, and I was so grateful for that time. And I learned a lot about myself. So, you know, if anybody is wrestling with the conception of, the concept of rekindling a relationship with your parents, keep in mind this. One of the commandments is to honor your mother and your father. It doesn't matter if you believe the same. That's not what it says there, right? Yeah. It doesn't say anything about that. It says honor your father and your mother. When you can't do that, if you have grudges against them, if they don't know you love them, or if you do respect them or honor them, then you're putting yourself not just at odds with them, but you're putting yourself at odds with God. This is what pleases God, is that we as children, no matter how old we get, that we would honor our mother and our father. You know, my mom and I, we don't agree on a lot of things, bro. We don't agree. Political, regarding the faith, we do not agree. but she knows that everything I do, that I do it to bring her honor, to show her I do my best and I do what's right to honor her. And she knows that. She knows that I'm just trying to make her proud still, you know? And so what would you say to the person who is dealing with that?
Compassion. You have to have it. Because you deserve it. We all want it. And so sometimes it's hard. It's hard to get, like, for years, like you and your mom, I was going for years with my dad and just trying to establish that relationship. And it does take time. And you, like you said, when you grow up and you are an adult and you see it in adult eyes, it you step back and be like, okay, there's room for error. They're they're not perfect because I'm not perfect. So if I'm not perfect, I know they're not perfect.
They got tons of room for error when you throw me in the mix. You got tons.
Exactly. And so I think that's my biggest thing is patience and compassion. And I think what you said was key. You don't have to agree. I don't talk political. I don't talk too much religion with my dad because I know he's probably the opposite of me. But we do talk life, and I remember when I got married, he gave me advice, and he's like, cherish your wife, love her, and kiss her as much as you can because you never promised the next day. And so I always hold that. And so I still I get wisdom from my dad, and it's just amazing when that can happen. And sometimes, yeah, I'm gonna be honest, it's probably not a relationship like he has with my other brother. I don't have inside jokes with him. I don't have any of that, but I do have a relationship with him. I can go out to dinner with him and the whole time we're talking and it's not like we're sitting in silence. If we are, it's because we're stuffing our face with food and it's good, you know.
And at the very most, though, that you don't have bitterness and hatred towards him anymore.
Exactly.
You're not weighed down by it.
And that's, yes, being weighed down, and it's like a weight lifted off of you. But I would say compassion and patience is key to, if it's with your parents, a brother, a sister, or even in church, a brother or sister that offended you or you were close at one point, whatever relationship it is, it's going to take compassion and patience.
Yeah.
And you actually have to, like you said, put feet to the faith, or actually you have to put in work because they don't know that you're trying to reconcile with them.
Sure.
So if what you put into it, I'm pretty sure you'll get out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Hey, we're gonna be wrapping this up soon. I see some of you guys on there. Feel free to engage with us, talk with us. We're live right now, so if you have any questions, if you have any maybe even tips, maybe you have a story of how you reconciled with someone as close as a parent. Maybe you can share that in the comments. The comments will stay there with this video, and you'll be able to encourage people. But as you're here, I just want to encourage you, share this video, hit that share button, hit the like button. Make sure you're communicating with us. We want to make sure you guys are feeling like you're feeling loved and accepted and appreciated. Also, this shirt right here, I thought it was cool. Straight out of quarantine. I was never in quarantine. No, I'm joking. I have a mask.
Probably lost it.
No, it's all dirty.
Yeah,
no, it's a Bane mask. I've been walking around with a Bane mask, and for the first time, I ran into somebody from church at the grocery store. They're there with the little girls. And they're all freaked out.
Daddy, Miles is
Yeah.
weird.
When you see somebody, you're not sure it's them, and so you kind of like whisper their name, like Miles, and then because you're not sure it's them. So somebody did that. I was in the cereal section with my Dane mask, and I just put it on Facebook, a little funny picture. But next thing you know, I hear Miles. And I was like, what? Looking around, and I knew them. I knew it was them because they travel as a unit, and they were like looking away, like, and they didn't
Clap
know.
twice if that's you.
And then once I was like, hey, what's up? They're like, oh, it is you.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, so if you see me walking around with a Bane mask at the store, don't get all freaked out. Bane has to take care of his, honeydew list too, right?
Right? Yeah, that was.
Well, look, I think the main takeaway today, just talking with Daniel here, is, I learned a lot just about what it means to have compassion. I have another friend, Jeremiah, who always says, those who lack compassion also lack understanding. And I think that that's a main point of what we've been discussing tonight. And it's, hey, a lot of times we don't understand what's going on in the mind of that person that we have any type of just kind of a hiccup in a relationship with, be it a parent, be it a friend or a dear loved one. A lot of times we don't know what's going on. We don't recognize the feelings outside of what we have. But what we should always understand is that God calls us to love people even if they are our enemies. All right? To have compassion. And a lot of times all that takes is asking a question. What's going on? What's happening? At work, that's the key to you handling some of your work disputes, right? If you feel like someone's tripping, don't just be like, they're tripping. That's it. I don't ever want to work with them. Don't do that. Ask them, what's going on? How you doing? There was a coworker I had, bro, and for the life of me, I didn't understand why they were the way they were. But then we had to carpool somewhere, and I just talked to them. I let my feelings go. I just said, whatever. And I talked to them, and I discovered why, if there's a reason why, there's a legit reason there. Why somebody is the way they are, that's, frustrating to you or whatever. And you say, oh, all this time I just thought you were tripping. But no, there's actually a good reason. And so the key to being able to be compassionate with somebody is understanding them. And I think that is a great step on the path of forgiveness, is compassion and understanding. What say you, Danny?
Be sincere. Don't be like, what's wrong with you? Like, if you're gonna ask him, be genuine. Maybe if you're of the faith, then maybe it's a good way for you to bring in the gospel or introduce the gospel to them. Or if not, just to be a good friend. That's what we lack in today's society, is a good friend that you can confide in and just like, hey bro, I'm struggling, like, I just, what's going on, like, how are you doing, and just to have someone to talk about it. Because especially I know for men, it's, if you talk about your problems, you're not man enough, or it's demasculine, or you're gonna get your man card taken from you or whatever. But you know what? I'd rather have all that stuff taken from me, and be all right, instead of going down a mind path where I don't need to go down.
Yeah.
End up hurting myself or someone else.
Yeah.
Like you said, you don't know what they're going through. And a simple gesture of, hey, how are you,
Yeah.
can do wonders.
Yeah.
So,
That's what's up. You know, speaking of man cards, I was thinking about taking your man card or a point off your man card for those hipster glasses you're wearing right now.
honestly, like,
I said, hey, this guy's he's gonna teach a Bible study of like all kinds of crazy modern stuff. I was like, oh no, here he comes.
hey, I don't have skinny jeans on, so that's good.
Yeah.
No. Now that I do realize it was a bad choice on these glasses,
Yeah.
but gotta wait 2 years.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, for some reason, like we're at the end of this, but there's like a huge kick in our attendance right now. So let's do it over, bro, from the top.
All right, and
Hey,
go.
look, everybody, thank you guys for joining us. Don't log off just yet. I want to encourage you to share this video because people are still going to see it on your timeline. Today, what we have talked about are so important, such important topics that are so necessary, especially for a time like this. People are spending a lot more time at home, and some people are alone with their thoughts, and maybe they're thinking about the relationships that, you know, what they could have been if they just swallowed their pride and, you know, reconciled. Reconciling is so important. Jesus said that we are co-laborers in the ministry of reconciliation. All right. So I just want to make sure that you guys see how imperative it is that we join together in the ministry of reconciliation. That's what God cares about. That's truly what God cares about. So please, please, please share this video right now. That button is right there. Just click the like button, click the love button, and share. Not asking for money, do not want money. All we desire is that people are encouraged and that you know, they take a break from the volatile political climate right now, and all the other people who are chiming in on that. There are more important things that matter right now, things of eternity, not just what happens in this next election, but what matters for eternity. So make sure you're sharing these videos, and make sure you check out our catalog of different interviews, not just Daniel's here today, but we have many great interviews for you guys to enjoy and to be encouraged by. So God bless you guys. Thank you for tuning in. And if you have any questions, it is not too late to drop them in the comments or send us a message. All right. God bless you guys. We'll see you next time. Next Monday, we are going to have Jessica Poche, who she is the founder of A Widow's Fight. And we're going to talk about her experience as a widow. To my understanding, she has a very, very unique experience as a widow. Something that you would read about in the Bible. It's just kind of like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that happened to her. So make sure you do not miss that. Make sure that you put it on your calendar for next Monday at this time at 7 p.m. We hope you guys can join us, and God bless you guys. Peace. I don't know why I just did the finger. I meant to do that.